Hi guys, comment nuit, salut tout le monde. Welcome back to another episode of A Writer's Diary. Um, that I do a little dance to kind of get myself going here. But yeah, good morning, good evening, good night to all of you that are listening. Um, Depending on wherever you are, thank you for having tuned in to another episode. Let's get started. So, before I sat down here, I had to ask myself, okay, let me check in. How do I feel? I was going to record one episode, but I decided to talk more so about how I feel right now. And right now, I am fighting some feelings of doubt, insecurity, about the process. And when I mean the process, I mean the process of putting yourself out there, working on projects, and I guess the different steps that includes. You create something in your mind. I create something in my mind. I have a vision, and then you're like, okay, how do I make this vision happen? And you do whatever, I do whatever thing I need to make the vision happen. I am struggling with the process. And, they say the hardest part is beginning. And so I guess you could say I'm beginning all over again. I had taken a break from writing after having finished my book, which is, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I would think that's the weirdest time for me to want to take a break, but I guess that's what my mind and my spirit was telling me to do, that I needed a break. And so I did it. And now I'm trying to get back to the flow of connecting back to that person that was writing all the time and creating art all the time and putting it out there and sharing it with the world and building an audience. And it's hard. It's hard because it feels like I'm beginning all over again. And that's not necessarily the bad thing. It's never bad to begin again. If anything, that can feel refreshing, especially when you feel like you have a new way of doing something, a new idea, a new vision for where you want to go. But speaking for myself, it's so nerve-wracking because I find myself going through those same insecurities every time. It feels like I'm beginning something new. And I didn't know what else to do with those feelings but to sit down and record. And I guess that's what we're going to make the episode about today, about what it means for me to feel, what it means for me to begin again, to see myself as a writer again. And I don't mean a writer as in the history shows that or as in my profession, but a writer in practice. And by practice, I mean someone who wakes up every day and writes every day. Someone who does writing, someone who is always in the action of writing, a writer, in the most practical term. And getting back to that has been really tough for me. And I think it has to do with the different identities that I carry. Because when you're in the middle of creating any kind of art, you see yourself as an artist. And when you step away from that process, then you begin to take shape, or I start to take shape of whatever it is that I'm currently in. And so to tap back into being an artist is a journey for me. especially the practice of artistry, of creativity, all of that is a journey for me because I haven't exercised that muscle in a really long time. And I guess you could say I've been executing my writing in different ways. I'm big on storytelling through many different forms of media, and so I've been recording, I've been thinking about performing my pieces live, but I have yet to find myself sitting at the desk writing away something that comes to mind and something that feels like the art that should the art that should ooze out of me, the art I've been creating. It's hard and I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get back, but through all of it, I managed to sit here and record this. And so this is a first step. Now, one of the biggest reasons I decided to do this podcast was to give myself a chance to hear myself go through the process of my own artistry. Because oftentimes it just all stays in my head. And when I create a final product, I forget, or not that I forget, but I want to learn to be more grateful for every step I hit, or at least every milestone I find myself in, because I will have I will have records of how difficult it was to get there. And so when I get there and I get to look back on things like this, I think it'll help me. It'll serve as a reminder that everything eventually gets figured out and that everything eventually connects. And maybe that's what I need right now. I need to feel like this will all connect in some weird way. Like 6 months from now, I'm going to look back on this day, or I'm going to look back on these feelings that I feel right now and just be in shock that I ever felt that way, because the person I've become in those 6 months has so much transformed, or at least the things I've created in those 6 months will shatter any feeling I thought I would have of having doubt about the things that I can create in my own talents and abilities. And so, yeah, I guess you can call this episode a stream of consciousness. I thought it would be more streamlined, but sometimes it's messy in my head, and I can keep it there, or I can sit down and talk to you guys and let it all out, and hopefully it connects with one of you out there who's going through something similar. So it's tough right now. It's tough getting back into a routine. But the most encouraging thing I could have done for myself is, well, I often think of the quote, inspiration has to find you working. And so one thing I will say is, while I'm struggling with this, there is a part of me that finds immense strength and encouragement in the fact that I took those feelings and was still able to sit down here and talk to you about it. There's something about that I'm still in a way creating. And I think that also brings pleasure and joy and fulfillment. And I'm grateful for it. Yeah. So one lesson so far. Well, remember this quote, inspiration has to find you working. And sometimes you got to feel what you need to feel and do the work while feeling it. And it might be messy, whatever it is, whatever art that you do, whatever thing, whatever way that you express yourself, when you're doing it with such a messy mind, the product in itself might be messy, but that's okay, because that's part of the process. And especially in the beginning, when it feels like the beginning, because the beginning it's the toughest. It's fighting feelings of doubt. For me, it's, am I good enough? Am I still good? Am I really going to do this? Who really cares? You know? To be an artist. To be a creative, to want to make something that impacts people. My God, the things that I have to go through, or we must go through to get there. But yeah, I just gotta get through this. I just gotta get through this. And today is that day for me. Today is the day. It's one of those days where it feels tough. Not to get through it. It doesn't feel tough to get through it, because I know I will. It feels tough to do it, that it becomes paralyzing, and so you don't do it because I keep waiting to feel better to do it. And I guess what I'm relearning, because I'm sure I've learned this before, but again, I lost practice. But what I'm remembering is that it'll only get easier as I'm doing it. The muscle won't get stronger thinking about the workout. It can only get stronger in the practice of working out. And so this is what this episode is for me. It's the practice. Is it writing? No. But is it creating nonetheless? Yes. Is it talking through the feelings of being a writer, and can this inspire a new piece out of me? Yes. And so for that, I also see this podcast as an expression of my writing. I guess it's the behind the scenes, one would say. And that's just as important. The process isn't simply the excellence that leaves my hands when I type, or when I type and I've edited down and I've gotten it so perfect and I've gotten the grammar down. The grammar. But I've edited down. I've said it to myself over and over and over again, and I've made my metaphors and I've connected it to bigger concepts. That isn't the only process to writing for me. The other process is also being able to articulate how I feel, because unless I feel light, it's very hard for me to write feeling heavy. And that's something I just have to respect about the way that I create. So, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those days. Anyway, this wasn't the most positive. I'm not sure this was even a positive podcast. I'm not sure if I should put this. No, I'm going to put this one out there. I'm going to do it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.